see the high chair right there? Yeah, Farm Bureau. What's the place is done, you go grab that one over there. I'm going to get Rex to go get this one over here. I just think we put it up here. Do you think it's okay to do it now? Look at that. Do it. Okay. Let's do it now. Sit down there.
Yeah, finally.
Pull this back. All right, check. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. There. Give me a thumbs up back there in the back. I see it. Back row Baptist over to the left. My back row Baptist on the right, in the middle. Love you guys who anchor the back. You're not scared. I know it's a smart strategy. The closer to the restroom, the better, especially after last week's meeting. Did anybody make it a whole hour and a half without going to the bathroom last week for the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame? A few of you. For those of you that weren't here, that's sort of an inside joke. Hey, it is such a great honor to have you here today. I think the rain finally held off a little bit. It's a nasty, sort of dreary kind of Monday. But it's going to be a fun meeting. This is one of our favorites that we do each year at the Touchdown Club. I know those of you who have been here, the coaches that have been here. It's a great way to honor some outstanding young men who sometimes don't get the recognition they deserve. And we're honoring a guy who wears a Longhorn on his helmet, something you usually would not see here at the Touchdown Club, but we'll tell a little bit more about that story here in just a second. We're going to recognize our veterans in just a second, but Gary Underwood, would you come up and lead us in a word of prayer real quick?
Well, I was going to have our veterans stand or do something, but let's just pray for them, all right? Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the day, even though it's a little drizzly out there. And Lord, we thank you for what today, or actually yesterday, represents. Those that have served and their families, those who have waited while those served. Lord, we thank you for their service. We honor them, and we ask you to protect those that are serving now. Thank you for the food. Use it to give us strength. In your name we pray. Amen.
Get those doors. As Gary said, we do want to recognize, I know we have some maybe active military. I know we definitely have retired military, but because it is Veterans Day, let's make sure, please stand if you're a veteran, and let us give you the kind of recognition you deserve. Please stand. Everybody's a veteran, please stand. How about that? Wow. What a good-looking group. Awesome. God bless you. That's awesome. Great to have you here today. All right, so I want to remind everybody, today we normally have folks doing our social media. They're not here today, so all you young people and parents and coaches, if you want to do more social media today, fire it up, whether it be Instagram, whether it be our Twitter account, at LRTouchdown.club, whatever it is. So, but I do want to go ahead and mute your phone so we don't have it go off during the meeting at some point. But I do want to remind you that you can, if you've got a relative anywhere in the country, or a friend, or a brother, or a sister, or anywhere in the world, they can log on to LRTouchdown.com right now and watch the ceremony today and hear Coach Brown. And you can also go to our Facebook page and do the same thing. So we're one of the few touchdown clubs in America that stream live in high definition on Facebook and our Touchdown Club page. So we want to make sure you knew that that was available to you. We're excited to hear Mack Brown today. Great to have him back. Let's give him a round of applause for coming back to Little Rock. Going into the Hall of Fame here soon in a few months. And, of course, this is the next to the last meeting. And great to have all our friends from Texas who I'll introduce here as well. Our next meeting, our last meeting of this year before Barry Sanders in January is Jim Mora, who used to coach the Atlanta Falcons. This is junior and coached the UCLA Bruins. He's doing ESPN work now. So that's the last meeting of the year next week. I do want to thank our sponsors real briefly. Twin City Limousine, thank you, Popeye and Greg Hatcher, for supporting us and picking up our speakers every week. CGRW, Mark Raines, Dan Sawyer, and Darren Gray, one of the greatest full-service advertising agencies in the South. We appreciate them. 103.7 The Buzz, Justin Acree, Wes Moore, Tommy Smith, Roger Scott, R.J. Hawk, all the gang over there that support the Touchdown Club. We appreciate them. Arkansas Urology, Epic Health, they sponsored the live broadcast, and that was one thing I left out. 103.7 The Buzz will also be carrying Coach's speech today, too, so you can catch that on 103.7 The Buzz. So we thank them. Arkansas Urology and Epic Health, Scott Davis and Tim Langford, they help support what we do here at the Touchdown Club. They've got 9 locations, guys. Go get your test. Don't put it off any longer. War Memorial Stadium, Kane Webb, Kevin Crass, Grady Spann, everybody over at the Parks and Tourism Department. We appreciate them. Great to have War Memorial as a sponsor. We've got state playoffs coming up, right, Rex? And they're right around the corner at War Memorial. Farm Bureau, Pulaski County, Todd Dennis, Stephen Reichard. Where's Todd at? I saw Todd was there at the game up in Fayetteville with a toboggan on. Didn't even recognize it, but you were all bundled up supporting the Hogs. We appreciate your support. Give them a chance to quote some of your business, whether it be Home Life, anything, car, you name it, Farm Bureau, Pulaski County. Dairy Queen, Blake and Nelson Lively, and Todd Denton. Where's Bill? Bill Hall. Bill, we're glad to have Dairy Queen as a sponsor, second year in a row. And these guys, I'm not sure they know how many DQs you've owned at one point or another. You're the king of DQ, but these guys are on their way, Bill. They're on their way. Every store they're open has been one of the biggest in the country, so great to have Dairy Queen as a sponsor as well. Also, too, Verizon Arena. Isn't it funny? Have you guys heard who the sponsor is, the new sponsor is for Verizon? Simmons Bank. How about that? Small world. Small world. Isn't it ironic that the first meeting of the year we see the Verizon folks sitting at the Simmons Bank table? I'm just saying. But we're excited about that. Congratulations, Jeremy. I know you've been working hard on that. Don't forget tickets for the Razorback game, December 15th. Texas San Antonio are on sale. But congratulations. I know that was a lot of work and effort, and excited to have Simmons' name on another building, especially one as prominent as Verizon, formerly Verizon Arena, now Simmons Arena. The Big Red Stores, Arkansas-owned company by the Hendricks family. Great to see them back. Hey, Roger Scott's back from vacationing, and I'm glad you decided to give a seat back, David and Doug. Yes, that he comes back with a tan, but great to have the Big Red Stores involved. Next big store, Lake Hamilton, is that correct? When's that opening? March 1st on the way. As Roger says, if you don't have a Big Red Store in your neighborhood, you got to move to one. Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. Charlie Coleman, I know Freddie Perkins here, no Judy Henry tonight. Thank you, Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings, for your sponsorship. By the way, they sponsor Coach Brown, the Cliff Harris Award. Today's Cliff Harris's birthday. So if it weren't for Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings, we would not have a Cliff Harris Award, the top small college defensive player of the year, so we appreciate them for their support. Crane Automotive, Larry Crane, largest dealer group in Arkansas, 19 dealerships, 800 employees. Do we got our Crane guys here today anywhere? There they are right there. You guys have had perfect attendance. There's been somebody here every week. Tell Larry we appreciate appreciate it. Great to have you guys here, and cut deals for all of our Touchdown Club members, please. Wally Hall and Amanda Copley, the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Wally continues with perfect attendance. Thank you, Wally, for your support of the Touchdown Club. We'll have our All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week coming up here in just a minute. And finally, Simmons Bank, Chris White and Andy Bingham. And did get a chance, Chris. I don't know if you saw, Chris got a new big ad in one of the community magazines about supporting a charity. He's all tuxed out and bow tie. And I did have a clue, though, when Chris called me getting Jeremy's phone number. I thought, uh-oh, something's up here. I may not need to bust it out, but we couldn't do this without Simmons Bank. They're our presenting sponsor. And do we not have a great group of sponsors? Let's give them all a round of applause, please. Thank you. Great to have Tommy May, a legendary Simmons guy, right here in front. Chris, I asked him, and Andy, I said, now, would you approve to have the name? Would you approve? And he said, don't know about that. So he's a little bit more old school. But, you know, when you got $16 billion in assets, it's a little bit easier to do an arena than back when he was running things. So do want to thank our great team. Coach Brown, we have, and all our guys from Texas, we have the best Touchdown Club volunteer team in America. Britt Bailey, Ryan Terry, who set up our meeting every week. Matt Johnson, Fidelity Local 6, does all our high-definition streaming. Dwayne Duncan does such a good job with photography. R.J. Hawk and Meredith Scott Hale aren't here today, but they do our social media. Our amazing volunteer team, and there's more than in these pictures, but we appreciate them. Our executive director, Debbie Wyman. This is a real challenging meeting because we have so many family members, we have so many coaches. But let's give our Touchdown Club volunteer team a big round of applause. Do want to thank Grant Garrett, who was learning a little bit about the Touchdown Club business. Grant, great to have you back again. I know you're out there somewhere, and you were so nice to allow us to get into your suite this weekend up in Fayetteville, so that was a good time. Thank you, Grant and Betsy. Don't forget, if you've got Touchdown Club shirts, make sure you pick them up from Debbie. Those have really been a popular hit. I think we've done 80 shirts. We appreciate Cassie Caldwell for her work on that. All right, it's time for our All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week. His name is Kendall Givens. Kendall, come on up. He's a junior running back from Little Rock Christian. Now, this was 3 weeks ago. So 3 weeks ago, Kendall rushed for 381 yards and 5 touchdowns on 30 carries in Little Rock Christian's 87-63 victory over Maumelle. This past week, they beat Greenbrier 63-27. He had 22 rushes for 165 yards. Very deserving. Let's give a Touchdown Club welcome to our All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week, Kendall Givens. Looking sharp there in that black suit. I want to thank Juana Talbert. Mama, where's Mama at? Good to see you, Juana. And Clarice Zinneman, Grandma, you're right here on front. Did you tell him, did you say, hey, that's David Basil? Is that what you said? Yeah, you need to educate the young men on us old players. Educate the young men on the old players. That's what you do. And Eric Koyu, where's Eric? Thank you so much. You're doing a great job at Little Rock Christian. And you'll also have a player obviously represented here today. All right, we have an abbreviated wrap-up, and Rex can do it. He's just going to focus on the Arkansas schools. Nobody can do it better. Let's give it up for Rex Nelson, everybody.
Thanks, David, and welcome, everybody. Of course, it was LSU over Arkansas, and a game that got a bit interesting at the end, made it interesting at the end. The Tigers moved to 8-2 overall, 5-2 in the SEC. Arkansas had just 91 yards through 3 quarters, ended up with 216 for the game. Now, get this. The 16 yards rushing on Saturday night were the fewest yards for an Arkansas team since the Hogs gained only 11 yards rushing in a 52-10 loss to Texas in 2008 was the last time. Coach, could you have called off the Dogs a little bit earlier in that game? Well, he thinks he did, he said. Hey, you can't tell those substitutes to fall down, can you? Oh, man. Well, that was one of the most lopsided games in that series, but I thought I'd get that stat in there. Now, it was the first night game on campus of the season. Razorbacks fall to 2-8, 0-6. Third consecutive win in the series for LSU. They now lead the overall series 40-22-2 Arkansas trailed, of course, 24-3 going into the fourth quarter, and then the offense finally woke up, but a little bit late. So Arkansas finishes the season with a 2-4 record in Razorback Stadium. This is kind of interesting. LSU and Arkansas have played games against each other in 6 different cities through the decades. Do you want to guess what city they've played each other the most in? Shreveport. They have played each other 25 times in Shreveport, of all places. And then the fans would go fight on the Bossier Strip. Some of you old-timers remember the Bossier Strip. I can tell who you are in there. Rough place. 25 times in Shreveport, 16 in Little Rock is second, 15 in Baton Rouge, only 5 in Fayetteville, twice in Dallas, and once in Memphis, of all places. All right, let's move on. 2 Arkansas teams make the NCAA Division II playoffs. 11-0 Ouachita, number 1 in the region. That means they get a bye and will play on the Saturday after Thanksgiving at home at Cliff Harris Stadium. And happy birthday, Cliff. 9-2 Harding has to make the trip up to Ferris State this Saturday in Michigan. So that's who they will play. Ouachita wins the 92nd Battle of the Ravine, 38-10, before a crowd of more than 10,000 in Arkadelphia, including Wally Hall. Wally, thank you for making it to a Battle of the Ravine. Henderson finished 5-6. It was Ouachita's 16th consecutive conference victory. Ouachita 44-10 in conference play since the start of the 2014 series. Now get this. This is amazing. After 92 games, this series is dead even. 43, 43, and 6 ties. That is pretty amazing. And, Coach, I need to use your ESPN ties. We are determined to get Game Day to the Battle of the Ravine one year. Game Day has done Division III. They have never done a Division II game. And it is the only college football game in America where the road team walks to a road game. They don't bus, they don't fly, they walk. It's literally across the street from each other. We got to get Game Day here one of these days. Now, Southern Arkansas, they could have wrapped up a playoff spot with a victory at UAM. The Mule Riders led 17-7 at the end of the third quarter. They end up losing 20-17. UAM scores a touchdown to tie the score with 1:04 left. They force SAU to punt after just 3 plays. They get the ball back at the 29 with 35 seconds left, go down the field, and Josh Marini hits a 34-yard field goal as time expires for the win. And, Coach, you know, down in southeast Arkansas, the saying is there ain't nothing more evil than that dang boll weevil. So, that was a fact. If you're a Mule Rider fan, they knocked you out of the playoffs. SAU loses its final 2 games to finish 8-3. UAM wins 5 of its final 6 games to finish 6-5. They really came on strong at the end. Harding beat Arkansas Tech 28-0 for its 5th consecutive victory. Tech finishes 3-8 and had just 156 yards of offense in that game. So your 6 GAC schools finish up the regular season. Ouachita 11-0, Harding 9-2, SAU 8-3, UAM 6-5, Henderson 5-6, and Tech 3-8. Arkansas State is bowl eligible for an 8th consecutive season. How about that for the Red Wolves? They've struggled a bit in conference this year, but they go to 6-4 overall, 4-3 in conference, 44-16 on their first trip to Coastal Carolina. Justice Hanson, their fine quarterback, 18 of 20 passing, 253 yards and 4 touchdowns. The Red Wolves led 27-6 at the half, and they did not punt at all in that game until late in the third quarter. They host Louisiana Monroe in Jonesboro this Saturday afternoon. UCA struggling a bit right now. A 40-27 loss to Incarnate Word in Conway. Bears are 5-5 overall, 4-4 in conference. Incarnate Word tied for the conference lead, 6-4 overall, 6-2 in the Southland Conference. UAPB falls to 1-9, 0-5 in conference, 56-24 loss at Southern University down in Baton Rouge. Southern, incidentally, speaking of our great high school players, they were led by a former Pine Bluff High School quarterback, Ladarius Skelton. Those of you who keep up with high school football will remember that name. He passed for 283 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. Our Division III team, Hendricks, finishes a long year, 2-8, 1-7 in conference, with a 28-21 loss at Millsaps. Line in our NAIA school finishes 3-7 overall, 2-6 in conference, with a 38-37 loss to Texas College in a game played at Batesville. Now, with college football winding down, I'm going to say this with all of these athletes here. It's the second week of the playoffs. I'm sitting by a fine athlete from Joe T. Robinson. There are some great games on the schedule this Friday night. So why don't you try getting out and seeing a high school football game this Friday night? Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Rex. Good job, Rex. Well done. All right. Want to introduce some special guests before we get underway with our James Street Award. First of all, we got some special guests. I know this is this young man is a guest. I call him a young man. Is a guest of Bruce James. He is the son of the great trainer Cal Partee. If you remember, Little League T won the Kentucky Derby. Cal Partee Jr. is here. Where is Cal? Let's welcome him. Where is Cal at? Let's give him a round of applause. Great to have you here. Great to have you here. And Debbie, great to have you as well, his wife. Obviously, Cal Partee in the on the Hall of Fame, Hall of Famer, and what a career your dad had. So great to have you here. Also, coming up from the state of Texas is a gentleman by the name of Mark McDonald. He's a journalist. He's an author. His latest book, his last book was on the life of Dizzy Dean. He has been working on a book for the last 2 years about the 50th anniversary of the big shootout. And so he has been talking to all these fellows up on stage and all the Arkansas players. And again, next year is the 50th anniversary. He's worked at the Dallas Morning News. He's got a great career. Obviously had a great career in media. Please welcome Mark McDonald. Where's Mark at? Please stand, Mark. Great to have Mark here. It was interesting. Had a chance to visit with him a little bit at dinner last night. Also, I think this is very unique. I want to give Melissa Nelson, Rex's wife, credit for this. She reached out to the University of Texas School newspaper and told them about the James Street Award. And so because of that, Ross Burkhart, who is here today, a junior journalist major at the University of Texas, he's been at the Daily Texan, which is a school newspaper, for almost 2 years now. He is the sports editor and football beat writer. And we mentioned this morning on the Buzz Radio Show, Ross informed me last night when I picked him up, do you know how big their staff is for this Daily Texan newspaper? They publish daily, both print and digital. Just in the sports department alone, they have 22 employees. They have 250. It's one of the few. It's a journalism school, too. But it's so great to have Ross to be here and to sort of document this. You're really the first journalist as far as daily newspaper, whatever, outside the state of Arkansas to be here and do this. So let's please welcome Ross Burkhart, everybody. So I do want to thank Melissa Nelson for her help on that. Also, Ann Jansen Broadwater reached out to a ton of folks in the South about media coverage of this event. I think it will come in time just because it's so unique. And I do want to recognize our friends from Texas. We'll start with, and they always come every year, we start with a guy who was James Street's best friend in college until his passing. He was a consensus All-American, 9 years with the Cleveland Browns and New England. He's the Hog All-American. Bruce James says that Bob McKay was the best player he ever played against, and that's the ultimate compliment coming from Bruce James. And Bob is a guy who tells it like it is. He does it every year he comes here. Please welcome Bob McKay, everybody. Bob. Next, we have an All-American running back from the famous Coy family in Texas, and Bruce told me this, the most recognized athletic football family in Texas history. His godfather was personal friends, I always say this, Ted, I hope you don't mind, was personal friends with Babe Ruth. He spent 5 years in the NFL with the Oakland Raiders and Buffalo Bills. Became a veterinarian after pro football. He's a great guy. Please welcome Dr. Ded Coy. And a first-time Texas Longhorn, we've never had him here, but I'm so glad we have you here. It's another one of these tall, mean, tough-looking Texans. But he played on the defensive side of the ball. 6'5", 255-pound defensive end. He was a three-time All-Southwest Conference defensive end for the Texas Longhorns. Led him to 3 Southwest Conference titles. A couple years after these gang here, your friends beside you, a little bit younger. 4-time Pro Bowler. Spent 10 years in the NFL. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. Please welcome Doug English, everyone. Doug, how about that? You stood up and the music played. Wow, something special going on there. And last but not least, we want to bring up to say a few words, Bill Hall. Now, Bill had been friends with James Street since 1966. He was the team manager, became very close with Darrell Royal even after he got through with football, very close with Edith Royal. He's one of the most influential people in Texas football and Texas sports history. The great thing about Bill, he's an unbelievable businessman. He's been a multi-unit franchise owner of multiple brands, including Dairy Queen, Church's Chicken, Golden Fried Chicken, Mr. Jim's Pizza, and Chicken Express. Some of those I have no idea. I've never heard of. But I know this much. I told the guy at DQ's, our buddies at DQ, I think he had at least 100 Dairy Queens at one time or another. He's an unbelievable businessman. And his partner, Lisa Harris. Where's Lisa? Please stand. Where's Lisa? Lisa Harris, everybody. Lisa's made it every year. She's the one who allows the jet to come here. She says, Bill, we can take the jet. If she says no, they don't come. But great to have Lisa with, of course, Align Capital Corporation, which is both Bill and Lisa. But for those that don't know a little bit about James, we just want Bill to come up and say a few words about him. Please welcome Bill Hall, everybody.
Thank you, David. Exaggerated a little bit, but that's you're used to that. So, so I wanted to tell you a few words about James Street, who was a 50-year friend of most of the people up here, and some less, only because they knew him for many years. But I know these guys behind me don't have any idea who James Street is. And you know, James Street was our friend and the leader of our team in the late '60s. He led the team to. He never lost a game as a starting quarterback at the University of Texas. Had played 20 straight games, never lost a game. Only quarterback in Texas history to ever do that. But I had the good fortune to know James in college through the football program. Was very good friends with him. But I also had the great fortune to work with him in business for 10 years at the latter part of his life. And we worked together in a company. And all the things that made James successful as a football player, as a leader, as a hardworking person, have made him very successful in business. And all the accolades he had in business were great, but all the stuff that in football a lot of people didn't even know that James Street was a football player. The company was James Street Group, and a lot of people thought that company was a company located on James Street in Austin, Texas. So I wanted to just tell you a little bit something about Coach Royal, who taught everybody at this table that's from Texas, including my friend Mac Brown, a lot of things about how to live life and how to work. And as you guys behind me are going forth in your life, Coach Royal always said you have a core competency to do what you need to do. You have to do things right, and you have to know what you're doing. But it's also about having relationships, and Coach Royal built his life on relationships, knowing people and taking care of that. James Street and all of us, I think, learned and did the same thing. And the last thing is you have to be a leader, and you have to be a leader by doing the right things at the right time, even when it's not in your best interest at the time. But I wanted to tell you that James Street lived his life that way, both in business and in athletics, and he was a winner. He never gave that up, and he was competitive up until the day he died. So we're thrilled to have you representing James with this award, and he's very deserving, and appreciate everybody here. I do want to say that all those things I just talked about, my friend Mac Brown is all those things. What a wonderful person. You're very fortunate to have him back. He was somebody who came in, treated Coach Royal and our team with great respect, and all the things that we knew about Coach Royal, we now feel about Mac Brown, and he's been part of our group since then, and we officially have inducted him to what we call our DK, our Longhorn group. So, and finally, to my friends Doug English and Ted Coy and Bob McKay, you know, we've had a 50-year relationship, a little less with Doug, but we have stayed together as a group because of the kinds of things that Coach Royal and Mac have done to teach us how to live life. And if you guys behind me will live your life according to those kinds of things that these coaches are teaching you today, you'll be very successful in your life. So So thanks again to everyone here for all the hospitality, Bruce, David, everyone here. We love coming up here, and we really appreciate how hospitable you are. Thank you.
That's perfect.
All right, just before we introduce, we're going to have Steve Sullivan introduce all of our nominees for the James Street Award. Did want to make mention real quick. What happened was that Bruce James invited James Street and Bob McKay to speak probably, 10, 12 years ago to the Touchdown Club. He told them we'd pay them, we'd fly them in, do all that, and they said, Bruce told them what our club was about and what we were trying to do at the end of the year, honoring high school and college kids around the state who play football. And they go, you know what, we don't want any of your money. We'll fly ourselves in, we'll do it for free. They came in, and all of us who are Razorbacks, hate everything burnt orange, and I said every year, this is a one time per year you're ever going to see my name. My one name. This is my one picture per year. They came in and we realized after hearing Bob and hearing James Street, they weren't the devil. They weren't the devil. They were... That's better. We had them on our radio show. They reached out and they let everybody know, Razorback fans know, that they were very fortunate to win the game. As Bob says, listen, they could have lost it just as easy as we lost it. But it made them human. It made Texas human and realize these are good guys, and they just happened to win a game in '69 that's been hard for Razorback fans to get over. They've stayed in touch. We've done media with them. James Street actually was the last guy to, we had the great, the '69 shootout documentary that he came to at the Clinton Library. He spoke and got emotional. Razorback fans gave him a standing ovation, and he passed away 25 days later. It was his last public event. And so that's when Bob called Bruce up and said, I'm going to send a $500 check to the Touchdown Club. James would have wanted that. And so Bruce and talking, we decided, hey, let's do a sportsmanship award. Let's recognize young men who are out there doing something that may not get the attention, they really deserve. And so the Texas guys have underwritten all this, the plaques, the money. We started out, guys, just to let you know, we just started out giving plaques the first year. So you came at the right time, because now we've gone from zero money to $250 to $500 cash. So it's really been good that you're in this class and not the first one. But that I don't know if those guys ever come back and want that from the first year or not. But the great thing, fellas, is that the reason there's a James Street Award, when he walked in a room, there was an it factor. He treated everybody the same. Didn't matter he never lost a game. Didn't matter he was a rock star who hung out with Elvis. He was just a good guy. And he did the right things, and I think Mac will share in a little bit just the kind of guy he was. So that's where there's a James Street Award. It's very unique that we're honoring somebody that we used to hate in Texas. But what a guy, and so this is what a compliment to you to be here being honored by your coaches who we're introducing in a second. So what we're going to do, Sully will introduce everybody from the back, and we want to go ahead and get our Texas guys. Go ahead, if you want to go ahead and make your way to the podium. And Lisa, if you want to come up, on up. What we'll do, every honoree, Sully will introduce, will come up. They'll bring their plaques, take a quick picture. They don't have to say anything. Sit down, and I'll read a few things about each of the honorees. And Sully, let's give it up for Steve Sullivan in the back for helping us out here today.
Representing Joe T. Robinson High School, their fine coach Todd Escola. Let's hear it for Andrew Johnson. From Southwest Christian Academy, Coach Jeff Carter. Let's hear it for Bryce Allen. Next up, Little Rock Christian High School. Their coach, Eric Kohu, Grant McElmurray. Representing Little Rock Catholic High School, their coach, John Fogelman, and their honoree, Kyle Fogelman. From Episcopal Collegiate High School, Coach Michael Carter and athlete Boyd Bethel. That may make the news tonight. Representing Baptist Prep High School, Coach Zach Welchman, and the athlete is Jackson Levitt. From the four-time state defending champs, Pulaski Academy, their fine coach Kevin Kelly, and their athlete is Wesley Coleman. Gotta love that red coat. From the Arkansas School for the Deaf, Coach Tommy Varner, and athlete David Merriman. From Little Rock Fair High School, Coach Roosevelt Turner. The athlete honored today, Henry Brooks V. From Little Rock McClellan High School, Coach Maurice Moody. And the athlete is Damian Martin Jr. Let's hear it for all our James Street Award finalists.
Yeah, that's right. And listen, let's give them, anybody deserves a standing ovation. Thank you, Sully. All right, this is what we're going to do right now. If you are a coach, head coach or assistant coach, that coach one of these young men up here on stage, we want to recognize you. Please stand and let's recognize our outstanding coaches that are represented here today. Head coach and assistant coach.
Hey, Debbie,
awesome.
Did we miss one? Which one's one here? Okay, Hall.
Remember-
Hey, Baz, there's one more.
Uh-oh.
One came in a little late. We don't want to give him the biggest cheer.
Well, here, hold on.
You ready?
Yeah, hold on. Where's he at?
Here we go. From Little Rock High School, Little Rock Hall High School, and Coach Kip Van Hoos, Dondravian Huggins. Got to get a picture taken and everything. My fumble. Let's hear it for Dondravian, very humble young man. If they had left me out, I would have been waving my arms, but he just sat there patiently.
How about that little flexibility there by the touchdown club? Good job, guys. Very nice. You know what, young man? Listen, I commend you for not saying a word. Just sitting back up there. How about that? Round of applause for him for being quiet up there. Now, I understand, too, we want to give a wave. My understanding is I've been told that James Street's wife, Janie, is that right? Janie may be watching on our live stream, so let's give a round of applause for Janie if she's watching. Janie. So neat that she can be a part of this. The last group I want to recognize real quick is if you are a mama, daddy, uncle, grandma, if you're a relative of any of our honorees, please stand and let us recognize you for the outstanding job you've done of raising your young man. So what I'm going to do here, I do this is one of my favorite things to do every year. I'm just going to read, every one of these coaches submitted something about their player. And so what I decided to do 5 years ago, and the Texas players agreed to do it, we didn't want a young man to stand up and go, this is why he's here. We didn't want a comparison to be made. Well, this kid is better than this kid, or this kid is a more sportsman, or whatever. So what I'm doing, I'm just going to read you a smattering of what the coaches have said about these young men. Many of the young men, obviously, that you raised and you coached. So bear with me for just a second. I'm not going to mention any name. Represents everything we try to teach our young people about class, honor, and respect. Comes from an outstanding family that he proudly represents. Spent 3 weeks at Cap Aldersgate, in which he worked with many kids who had disabilities and other special needs. Volunteered from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. for 7 straight days. Leads by an example wherever he goes. Scored a 35 on his ACT. Wow. Out of 9 seniors that started and stayed with the football program this year, and again, these are all merged together, he is the only one senior that played for me all 4 years of his high school career. Very soft-spoken, doesn't get easily riled up, encourages and helps out his teammates during practice and the game. He is a team player, is willing to put the team first before himself. Will be graduating this year with the goal of joining the military at school's end. Has consistently been a positive influence to his peers and coaching staff, often encouraging his teammates with laughter and inspiring words, consistently shows respect to others as he often volunteers to facilitate team meals or help staff. Truly a special kid to me, fought through so much adversity and through it all remains humble. He's our team captain because he exemplifies what it means to be a student athlete. He was once told by doctors that playing football would be a risk. He has to get pain shots 3 times a year to deal with the pain. And despite of that, he still continues to play. Even though he can't play beyond high school, he continues to come to practice and approach games like he's playing for a scholarship. This kid will change lives all over the world. I love him and can't wait to see what the future holds. Always encouraging teammates to push through conditioning and play hard every play. Suffered a season-ending injury during week 5. Since has been to every practice, being the same vocal leader he has been all along, keeping a positive attitude through it all while continuing to encourage teammates and give pointers when they come to the sideline between series. The guy busting his tail on scout team every day, but then cheering loudest for his teammates on the field every Friday. Never complained about playing time, always at practice early, and works as hard as anyone. Getting to see varsity action on Friday nights, even being named our player of the week. He's what every coach wants. Hardworking, on time, puts team before himself. As long as he has his trusty bag of Skittles, he's good to go. There you go. The third brother to play for me. Has never been any trouble, always an outstanding student, lifts up his teammates by always keeping positive. An encourager to everyone around him. Work ethic is an example to everyone and a great role model to those who look up to him. Loves to serve those around him. Does this not only at school, in the classroom, on the football field, but also in the community. I love these 3 words. Reliable, trustworthy, and committed. What he lacks in ability, he makes up for with heart and desire. His passion to be the best at his position is addictive and it affects all those that are around him. Perfect role model for our younger athletes. I consider it an honor to have coached him the past 2 years. He'll be successful in whatever he chooses to do in life. Others were receiving accolades. I think this is very interesting. While others were receiving accolades, this young man quietly came to practice and showed what it means to be a true teammate by holding a dummy or playing on the scouts team. He was an extra coach on the sideline, always willing to coach up the ball boys, get water to teammates during timeouts, and even alerting me to things such as clock management and timeouts. I love this last line. The man on the bench is the man for me. He's not the star, but he's the key. I thought that was well said. Unselfishly moved positions to defensive end for the greater good of the team. His willingness to be coachable and his adaptability to learn a new position epitomizes the excellent character he has. Hardworking, dependable, perseverance, and sacrifice have been the keys to our successful season he's led in this area. This young man exhibits outstanding character to all the team. He represents the game of football and our team extremely well. He is the best offensive lineman we have, a team captain, and an awesome leader. This next young man had to come out of his shell to be the leader of his team. His leadership exemplifies the future of the program where they look up to him for advice. Has been a lion heart this season. Works hard and pushes the young and inexperienced to perform past their ability. Has always told them, if you don't push yourself, then you never will improve. A model student. Wish we had more players like him. And last but not least, he taught his teammates a valuable lesson. When you're up against a struggle, finish strong. When teammates feel defeated, finish strong. And when you're pushed beyond your human limits, finish strong. I count it a privilege to have coached this young man. He's a perfect example of self-discipline, team spirit on and off the field. So parents, are you not proud of that? That's what these coaches have said about your young man. Wow, very nice. So anyway, just in a day and age where we hear so many negative things about young people sometimes, we thought this was a great way to honor a great man in James Street. I think he'd be smiling on this, to know that we're recognizing young men who deserve to be recognized. And you coaches, I commend you for nominating these guys. Not only because they're good quality kids, is because you feel like they deserve some positive attention. So this was a very tough decision. We've been doing this. This is year 5. This was the toughest year ever because we had so many young men that were all close together in what they did. And so our committee really struggled very hard. And so I made an executive decision. And so for the first time ever, what we're going to do, I could not feel comfortable giving one award to a winner today. So what we're going to do, we're going to give you the $500 cash that you already have, and we're going to take that $1,000 and split it up between all of you and add to your winning. And we're going to name all these guys James Street Award winners this year. So here's the only thing, is that, young men, I don't know who makes the decision on where the money goes. But you should have your checks today when you walk out of here. And God bless you for being the young men that you are. We're honored to have you here today. We've had Mean Joe Green, Too Tall Jones, Earl Campbell, Larry Zonka, Steve Atwater. But we're just as honored to have you guys here today because of what you stand for. And we want you to keep up the good work. And our friends from Texas couldn't do it without you. I think James would be proud, and thank you for supporting this. And you've been the driving force behind getting this done. And at this time, we have a little bit more Texas flavor before we wrap up. Jim Rasco, will you come up and introduce our guest speaker, Matt Brown? Give it up for Jim Rasco, everybody.
Okay, we're running a little behind, so I'll cut out a little bit of this. Almost everyone in this room knows about the 2016 season that today's guest speaker served as head coach of the Texas Longhorns. So I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about some of the things he did as both a player and as a coach before he took over at the University of Texas for the 1998 season. Let's go back to the fall of 1966 when our speaker had just turned 15 years old and was entering the 10th grade at Putnam County Senior High in Cookeville, Tennessee. At that time, our speaker was younger than these wonderful students we've got here seated at the head table and we're honoring today. His football team was known as the Cavaliers, and the quarterback was an 11th grader who wore number 14 and was named Watson Brown. In the second game of the season, the Cavaliers faced Hartsville, a team that had not lost in its previous 32 games. Watson threw 2 touchdown passes to number 22, his little brother Mac, and Putnam County won 21-7. In the fourth game of the season, 10th grader Mac Brown scored 3 touchdowns in the first quarter, the first on a 65-yard run. Cavaliers crushed Livingston 35-7. In the next game, our speaker scored on an 85-yard run, and Putnam County rolled over Gainsborough 35-12. Now let's jump to the 1966-67 basketball season. Putnam County's 2 guards wore the same numbers they wore in football. Mac was number 22, and Watson was number 14. Then in the spring of 1967, the Brown brothers made up half of the Cavaliers' infield, with Mac playing third base and his brother playing shortstop. In the fall of 1968, Mac was an all-state running back and was recruited to Vanderbilt by head coach Bill Pace. And for all of you that are old enough, you'll remember this is the same Bill Pace that served as offensive backfield coach for the 1964 national champion Razorbacks. Prior to 1973, freshmen couldn't play on the varsity, so Mac spent the 1969 season on Vanderbilt's freshman team. As a sophomore in 1970, Mac immediately became a starting halfback for the Commodores and joined his older brother, who was the quarterback. After Vanderbilt won their opening game, they played their second game of the season at Dudley Field in Nashville, hosting the Citadel and their head coach, an Arkansan, Jimmy Red Parker. In the first quarter, tailback Mac Brown ran for the first touchdown. Before the quarter ended, Watson Brown ran for the second touchdown in a 14-0 lead. In the third quarter, Mac ran for his second touchdown and caught a pass for his third of the night. After the conclusion of the 1970 season, Mac decided to transfer to Florida State and play for Coach Larry Jones. This is the same Larry Jones that was the 168-pound left guard for Coach Wilson Matthews' 1950 state champion Little Rock Central High Tigers. As a transfer, Mac had to sit out the 1971 season, but in the preseason magazines for 1972, it was stated that transfer Mac Brown, a stout 6-footer who weighs 194, will be the fullback. Early in the season, Mac suffered his first of 2 serious knee injuries, but despite his injuries, he was able to log enough playing time to finish 1972 as the third leading ground gainer for the Seminoles. Okay, I'm running out of time. Skip a little. Let's go fast forward 10 years after his graduation from Florida State. He became the head coach at Appalachian State for 1 season. Then former Razorback Barry Switzer hired Coach Brown to be the offensive coordinator for the Oklahoma Sooners for the 1984 season. For the following 3 years, Coach Brown was the head coach and athletic director at Tulane, guiding the Green Wave to the Independence Bowl following the 1987 season. Then in 1988, Coach took over at North Carolina for 10 seasons, including bowl trips his last 6 seasons and a top 10 ranking his last 2 seasons. Then he guided the Texas Longhorns to 158 wins and 15 bowl games in 16 seasons. He'll never forget one special game. It's a national championship game following the 2005 regular season. Wednesday night, January 4th, 2006, in the Rose Bowl at Pasadena, California. Undefeated Southern California, a team that had won 34 games in a row, faced the undefeated Texas Longhorns, who had won 19 in a row. The final minute of the game, Texas trailed 38-33 and faced 4th down at the USC 8-yard line. The ball snapped to Vince Young, and he ran it in for the winning touchdown with 19 seconds left. 2-point conversion made the final score 41-38 and gave Texas its first national championship in 35 years. Our speaker will never forget an event that will be held exactly 3 weeks from tomorrow night at the New York Hilton Midtown, when he'll be officially inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. Please welcome head coach Mac Brown.
Check, check. Make sure that mic works, Coach.
Check, check.
Hey, great to have you back.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I know you're a busy man. And
He made an awful career sound great. I thought I could play, and I thought I was a Razorback there for a while.
Now, this is your 3rd time back, and 2nd time you spoke, and just top of mind thoughts about this award, James Street Award, and these young men.
Well, it's special. It's unique. The people that come to support it are good people that have good hearts. I love high school coaches more than anything in the world, parents. My whole life's been involved in all of that. And this is not about just the best player. It's about the best kid and their accomplishments, and that's who James was. James was passionate. He loved life. He was crazy. If he's here today, he'd be loud, and he'd be fun, and he'd be picking on all of you, and he'd be telling jokes. But he also cared about what was right. And he is smiling in heaven over this. He has wonderful children himself. With Janie watching, it's special. But his boys are special. And people like these guys behind me from Texas that loved him, and people like his family, are people, and like you, that will keep his history along and alive forever.
Coach Brown serves on the Broyles Award Committee, and so did Darrell Royal. And so it was interesting that your transition when you came in as coach at Texas. I know that Darrell Royal welcomed you in, and all these guys did too. Talk about that transition when you came in as head coach at Texas.
Yeah, Coach was so special. I knew Coach Broyles really well, and that's why I wanted to be on the committee when you asked me. And I love Coach Royal. He was like an older brother to me, as he was. These guys knew him both ways. I just knew him as a great friend. He never yelled at me like he did them. So it's a little bit different. But Coach Royal took complicated things for me and made them simple. He died 6 years ago, I think last Saturday. And it sure doesn't seem like it's been that long. But I would talk to Coach every day. And he just had nuggets of wisdom for me that were unbelievable. And it changed my life. It's the best thing that happened to me from going to the University of Texas, was being able to spend special time with Coach Royal.
We mentioned Doug and Bob, and all of you guys are in the College Football Hall of Fame. You're going in soon. You've been around these guys' national championship team. You had a national championship team. What's the ingredient? What's the key ingredient for a championship team?
If we ask these guys to stand up, they're really, really big and they're really fast. And the ingredients to a national championship football team is you've got to have great players. And I asked Coach Royal. That was one of the questions I asked him early. How do you win a national championship? And he said, you got to have great players that are family. They have tremendous chemistry. They pull together. They work really hard. And then you got to be lucky. I mean, you got to stay healthy, and you got to have the ball bounce right. And we talk about the 69 game. That could have gone either way. These guys have talked about it. When I asked Coach Royal, I said, Coach, that must have been a real cool game. You must have won. He said, oh, hell, we turned the ball over 5 times. So that's just the way coaches are.
You know, these young men that are being honored today, Coach, some of them are starters, some of them are not. Talk about how all the different kind of players are important in the chemistry of a team, whether you're the starter or not.
All of us in life need to know who we are and what our gifts are. Everybody has certain gifts. Not all of us, most of us, we're not given everything. So what you've got to do is take what you've got, take your gift, and use it for the best of society. That's what these young guys are doing. The talk about the bench. I put out positive quotes every morning because it gets me started. And I put it on Twitter, and I need that in the morning, because if it touches one person's heart and picks their day up, it's worth it for me. This morning, weirdly enough, it was Bill Parcells talking about give special praise to those who have a unique position on your team that's not really recognized. And when I heard the talk about being the bench warmer, it's about family. It's about team. And it's very hard to win. It's one thing I've tried to explain to the ESPN people. Winning is very hard. And when somebody's winning, you better appreciate it and you better enjoy it. Because it doesn't happen just because you wave someone or you hire some new coach or you say, let's win. It doesn't happen that way. It happens because of all these wonderful things that have to come together, none more important than people knowing their role. And if you know your role and understand who you are, then it all works.
You know, these coaches here who nominated these young men today, they obviously saw something special in these guys. And I'm sure over all the years you coached, there's guys that, you know, could have been starters, could have been team captains, could have been maybe guys who are just role players or, you know, set the bench, but, you know, went on to have very successful, dynamic careers and whatever, correct?
Yeah, we've had a bunch of doctors and lawyers, and it's funny. I may need a knee operation here in the next 10 years or so, and there's a safety that played for us at North Carolina that's a prominent surgeon. Never thought I'd have a safety cutting on my knee. So I talked to him this summer, and he said, Coach, I need to look at your knee. And I said, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for that. But he was not a great player, but he busted his tail, and he did everything right. And now he's giving back to society. So when people say, who are your favorite players? It's usually people that you don't know the names. Right. It wasn't just people who were better than everybody else.
I know you've been out of coaching now a few years, but you're around the game because of ESPN and all that. What about the challenge that these young men have, and even these mamas and daddies dealing with social media and Twitter and some of the, you know, which you didn't have to deal with as much back in your coaching days?
Well, I think the most important thing I would say to these guys, and I would say to everybody in the room, because everybody hears, you've either got kids, grandkids, family, and number one, social media is a good thing. It's a positive thing. And for those who say it's going to bring down the world, only if we allow it. So, but what it does, I get to stay in touch with all of our ex-players, a lot of my family, through Facebook and Twitter. That's not bad. It's not bad to have positive things on Twitter. What we've got to do, though, is make sure that we always do what we know is the right thing to do. And the people in this room are good people. You got to stand up. We've got to stand up. We can't let the negatives overtake the positives because we're afraid somebody will get mad or, well, it doesn't look good, or I don't know if that's my place to stand up. It is. It is. People, young people, are addicted to their iPads. They're addicted to their phones. I look at mine way too much. Way too much. And I know I do. And I had them put something on there to tell me how much I'm looking at it every week. It's a little scary now that I'm wasting that much of my time looking at that stupid phone all week, so I'm going to quit doing it. But we have 6 grandkids, 8 and under. And when the grandkids get with Pops, the first thing they do is, can I have your phone? And I make them answer questions for me before I'll give them the phone. I said, nope, how was your morning? What happened at school? Tell me about your classes. What'd you learn? And they're going, oh, God, give me the phone, Pops. Give me the phone. So, but I think it's good as long as we make sure that it's being used in the proper manner, and that our kids are learning. These guys are our leaders. We owe them. We're responsible to them to teach them how to lead. And that's what I love about parents and grandparents and coaches and such, because we got a lot of problems right now in our world. We've always had problems in our world. And young people are better than ever before. We just got to help them. We got to help guide them a little bit.
We are the Little Rock Touchdown Club, and you're going into the College Football Hall of Fame December 5th, I believe. What would you tell somebody? Why is football such a great sport? Why is it such a, maybe better than any other sport, in your opinion?
I've had 7 knee operations, a knee replacement. And
that's not a good endorsement.
No, but it is. With all of that, I would still play again. I would play because of the lessons that you've learned. You learn to be tough. You learn how to be part of a team. You learn how to give, not just take. You learn how to fight back when you get down. We've got too many people quitting and giving up and saying, I can't do this. Yeah, you can. You can do whatever you want. And the thing I miss the most about football are comeback wins. I didn't want to be behind. But when you were behind and you had to pull together at halftime and make some adjustments as a family and fight back and win late, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than that family pulling together and overcoming all of the adversity, especially on the road, and shutting up all those other fans. and then being able to get in that dressing room together because you had done something as a group to be successful. And football teaches you all of that. It's not easy. You get knocked down, you got to get up. It's not easy. You're going to be criticized. And when you're criticized, you got to learn to handle it because you're going to be criticized in your life. And I do think that young guys that stay and play, and especially win, you need to win. Losing stinks. I told our team all the time, it's not worth the play if you lose. So win. Win. I like it better. I sleep better. I eat better. All those things are better. But I do think that young people that play football are better prepared for life when they get through.
I know you commented on this on the buzz, but for our audience, tell us what you think about Chad Morris.
Chad is a good friend of mine. He was a high school coach at Lake Travis in Austin. Won a bunch of state championships there, and then he went on his journey through Tulsa and Clemson and SMU before he got here. He is a really good man. He's a good father. He's a good husband, which is really important to me. He does everything right. You can trust him. You can respect him. And he's got a great relationship with high school coaches. I've always said Chad's a high school coach that just happened to be put into a college situation because he loves the passion of high school football and high school coaches. And he'll do a great job recruiting this state because coaches will trust him and parents will trust him because he's going to treat their players right. He's not going to cuss them. He's not going to grab them, which I get sick and tired of seeing college coaches now cussing and grabbing kids. I didn't want people cussing me. I only had 27 million people doing it in the state of Texas, but I didn't always like it. I asked them not to, and it didn't help. But I didn't want to be grabbed, and I didn't want to be cussed, so I wouldn't allow our coaches to grab or cuss the players because I ask them to treat their players like they would want their sons or daughters to be treated. And to me, that doesn't mean demean them and cuss them and beat them down. Chad's that guy. Chad will do everything right, and he's not going to worry about wins and losses as much right now as he is putting everything into place that's going to help him down the road. So you all just be patient, hang in there with him, be positive. It's hard to be positive when you're 2-8. Be positive. Be positive. Just keep them playing. Keep them playing.
Last football question before we close here. Speaking of certain coaches, Bobby Petrino was fired yesterday, and he's going to reportedly get $14 million. And Brett Bielema was here at one time; he got $15 million.
I didn't get that much.
What do you think about the business model when that happens? You think it's out of control? You think it's just too much, especially with the players not getting paid and being top heavy in the way the system works?
Yes. I do. I think that we're getting too much like pro football. We're college football in an NFL system. It's all about wins. It's not about building character. It's not about people being as loyal to their university and their state. It's not about the players as much as it should be. And I don't like where we're going. I think that if your football coach is making more, and I was one of the problems. It happened with me in 2005, and I wasn't as aware then as I am now that it wasn't good for college football. But when your coach is making more than your president and more than your athletic director and maybe the highest paid public official in the state, I don't think that's a good message to what we're getting in this far. These guys don't get paid like that are sitting out here. We got into coaching because we love kids and we love the game and we love the passion. We didn't get into coaching to make a lot of money. And then all of a sudden, and when they gave me that big salary at Texas, I didn't have enough time to spend it. So I really didn't think much about it. They said, "Do you want to make that?" And I said, "That's fine." My wife liked it. She thought it was good. She spent it too, by the way. But I do think that we've got to be really careful that we go back to what's right in college football and what's right about coaches and what's right about the game, and get full stadiums and get passion and see kids competing and fighting again instead of talking about who we fired, how much money, or who we're mad at. There's too much of that. Let's go. And I don't like the fact right now we got about 5 good teams. Everybody else is okay. But we got about 5 that are playing for the national championship, and everybody else is watching. And they're playing, and they're trying to get to a bowl game. And I don't like that. We need to get back to where we got 15 or 20 good teams, and it matters that we got a whole lot of people that have a chance to win and be out there at the end where we can all enjoy it.
You know what's right about football, Coach, is these young men that are behind us, these coaches that are here.
Absolutely.
These parents and grandparents. That's what's right about football.
Grandparents.
That's right. We got a few grandparents. But that's what's right. And that's why we had this kind of award. That's why we had this kind of day. So I want to thank all of our Touchdown Club members, all of our sponsors, all our guys from Texas. Couldn't do it without you, Bruce. Same thing. Mac, for you coming back again. Lisa, thank you so much. I mean, this is a neat day. This is the kind, when you're talking about all the negatives, this is a positive. And coaches, we're honored that we have a chance to honor your players in this way. And we appreciate, as Coach said, the work that you're doing. So what I want to do, first of all, let's give a round of applause for Mac Brown. Great job by Mac, as always.
Thank you.
Class act.
Thank you very much.
So Mac has to get out of here. You have another speaking engagement in Austin here shortly. So what we want to do, we're going to conclude the program. And then, guys, we want all the honorees to be on that back row on each side. We want to get you and all the Texas guys and Bruce get in the middle under the James Street. And we're going to do a group photo. So family, coaches, if you want to get a picture of everybody together, let's do that now. Another round of applause for our James Street Award honorees. Thank you for being here, everybody. See you next week. All right, just squeeze in there, man. Check, check, check. All right, guys, let's pull that. There you go. You know what you're doing there. Just don't make sure you don't fall off the back of there.